it the Buffett rule, whatever. But that's how I feel we ought to be addressing these fiscal problems.
Mr. Rahal, that's it for our time. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Susan. Enjoyed it.
We're going to take you to the House of Representatives for live coverage today. The House at work on the defense spending measure with many amendments. Live coverage begins now.
Wisdom to all with great responsibility in this House for the leadership of our nation. As the members disperse to their various districts and our nation enters a week which ends with Memorial Day, may we all retreat from the busyness of life to remember our citizen ancestors who served our nation in the armed services. Grant that their sacrifice of self, and for so many of life, would inspire all of America's citizens to step forward in whatever their path of life to make a positive contribution to the strength of our democracy. Bless us this day and every day, and may all that is done within these hallowed halls be for your greater honor and glory. Amen.
The Chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Chair will entertain up to 5 requests for 1-minute speeches from each side. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, you need an ID to rent a car, open a bank account, get admitted to a hospital, get out of the country, get into the country, buy a gun, check into a hotel, rent a U-Haul, use a credit card, buy a lottery ticket, serve on a jury, get a fishing license, pick up a package at the post office, rent an apartment, visit a public school, and sell scrap metal at a junkyard, or hear the Attorney General speak. You even need a photo ID to vote in Mexico, but not the U.S. Yesterday it was reported that 53,000 dead people and thousands of non-citizens may be illegally registered to vote in Florida. 64% of U.S. voters think that voter fraud is a problem. Even though the Supreme Court has ruled voter ID laws are constitutional, the Attorney General is fighting against those legal laws. Why? It seems the people who would be disenfranchised by voter ID laws would be unlawful voters, and that's just the way it is.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, so ordered.
If you want peace, you prepare for peace. If you want war, you prepare for war. The NDAA prepares for war against Iran. It calls for pre-positioning, planes, bombs, ships, munitions, and for naval maneuvers in the Strait of Hormuz. This is not about defense. This is about offense. I was a third-string quarterback on a not very good varsity football team, and I knew the difference and know the difference between defense and offense. We're preparing to go on offense against Iran, which does not have nuclear weapons and has no intention or real capability to attack the United States. We're about to make the same disastrous mistake we made against Iraq. This bill does not explicitly authorize war, perhaps, but that's besides the point. It's licensing it. It sets the stage for it in an election year. Wake up, Congress.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Tennessee seek recognition?
Request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to talk about an important piece of legislation that I am proud to co-sponsor, the No Budget, No Pay Act. It says if we, the members of the House and the Senate, don't adopt the budget and pass all the appropriation bills by October the 1st, we don't get paid. The Congressional Budget Act of 1974 requires the Congress complete a budget annually, and for over 1,000 days we have not done so. The deadlines for the budget and appropriation bills are missed so often that they're meaningless. This kicking the can down the road mentality has got to stop. People are fed up, and frankly, America cannot afford it anymore. We have to balance our books just like American families do. Our constituents have to perform their job duties to collect a paycheck, and so should we. I urge you to support this common sense legislation. Not only will it help us get our fiscal house in order, it will help restore trust in this institution. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition? Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we begin voting on the National Defense Authorization Act later today, I want to remind people that earlier this year the Air Force proposed cutting 5,100 Air National Guards positions from our military. Part of this plan eliminated C-130s and 800 jobs from the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station in my own district. Transparency in government is important to all of us. Yet in this decision, no information was provided to us as to how the decisions were made to cut that many across the country. It's clear we need to reduce our spending, but we need to do it in a transparent and open way. Last week, I was proud to join Republicans and Democrats on the Armed Services Committee in offering an amendment to restore these positions. When our citizens need help, whether it's fighting terrorism in Afghanistan or being rescued from floods in upstate New York, I say, who are you going to call? I want to make sure the Air National Guard is prepared to protect us, and therefore today we need to protect them. Thank you, Mr. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida seek recognition? Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, on May 2, 2005, the Department of Army authorized the creation of the Combat Action Badge. This badge provides special recognitions for soldiers who personally engage the enemy or are engaged by the enemy during combat operation. The bayonet and grenade on this badge associated with active combat. The oak wreath of the badge signifies strength and loyalty. Currently, Army policy limits the eligibility for those individuals to meet the criteria of the Combat Action Badge after September 18, 2001. Unfortunately, this overlooks thousands of veterans who made similar sacrifices in previous war. That's why I offered this amendment that would expand the eligibility of the Combat Action Badge. It also includes those served honorably from December 7, 1941 to September 18, 2001. Additionally, in accordance with the wishes of those veterans who approached me about the expanded eligibility of this badge, the cost of the Combat Action Badge would be borne by those individuals, not the taxpayers. Therefore, this measure will cost the American taxpayer nothing. I was proud to introduce this identical amendment last year to the Defense Authorization Act and pass the House in block. So I'm back this year, continue to fight for combat veterans for the past to receive recognition they rightfully deserve. With that, I ask for your support.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition? Does the gentleman seek unanimous consent? Does the gentleman seek unanimous consent?
I do.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the University of Massachusetts' popular and successful University Without Walls program as it celebrates its 40th anniversary at the end of this academic year. The University Without Walls program was established in 1971 to give adults an opportunity to complete their bachelor's degrees at a world-class public university while simultaneously maintaining a job. Over these past 40 years, the program has awarded degrees to more than 4,000 men and women ranging in ages from 20 to 80. From the Facebook generation to the greatest generation, this program continues to make a difference in the lives of ordinary people. While many colleges and universities across the country now have similar programs on their campuses, the program at UMass is one of the oldest and most well-regarded adult bachelor degree completion initiatives in the nation. I know many of the successful individuals from Western Massachusetts who have benefited professionally from this initiative. I applaud Dr. Ingrid Bracey and her extraordinary team at the UMass campus in Amherst for their dedication to non-traditional students in both the classroom and the workplace. As one of their strongest and most outspoken supporters, I'm happy to share their success story with the American family here today in the House of Representatives.
One from Maryland seek recognition.
To address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor two very special schools in the 6th District of Maryland, which were honored this year as federal Blue Ribbon schools: Bel Air Elementary School in Cumberland and Oklahoma Road Middle School in Eldersburg. Since 1982, the National Blue Ribbon Schools program of the Department of Education has recognized schools where students achieve the very highest academic level. I would like to particularly mention the women who lead these schools. Mrs. Autumn Ayrick brings a spark of excitement to Bel Air Elementary with her positive attitude and her dedication to the school community. She facilitated the Blue Air philosophy, school centered on reaching excellence, or SCORE. The Oklahoma Middle Road School has adopted the motto, good, better, best, to encourage educational and social achievement for all their students. Miss Catherine Hood symbolizes the motto with her leadership style of collegiality and stewardship, which has created an atmosphere of trust and fosters a positive learning environment. With educational leaders like Autumn Ayrick and Catherine Hood and dedicated students like those at Bel Air Elementary and Oklahoma Road Middle School, America's future is bright.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition? Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a few hours, one of the least productive, most unpopular Congresses in American history is going to go on another recess, despite the fact that in 43 days, interest rates for the Stafford Student Loan Program will double from 3.4% to 6.8% on July 1st, 43 days away from today. What's happened in the last week or so? The Senate Republican leadership led a filibuster to block not only discussion or the consideration of a bill to prevent this, but discussion or debate on a bill. In this House, after 3 months of stonewalling, Speaker Boehner brought a bill to the House which cynically took money out of a preventive health care fund for cancer and heart disease screening to pay for a one-year Band-Aid for Stafford student loans, a measure which the Hartford Courant this morning, the oldest published newspaper in America, described as, quote, just sick. My bill, H.R. 3826, will lock in the lower rate at 3.4%, providing students and families with a real horizon to budget for college, has over 150 bipartisan co-sponsors. It is time for us to move, fix this issue, allow students and families the ability to plan for next year's college year. And again, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute without objection.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Patty Mosley for 43 years of dedicated service to the students of the Walker School in Marietta, Georgia. Patty moved to Marietta in 1969, began teaching 3rd grade, and she held that position for 17 years. She also served as interim principal and spent the last 26 years as enrollment advisor. An avid playwright, Mosley also began the Walker School's drama program, writing and directing the first script. Before her retirement, the Walker School renamed its studio theater in Mosley's honor. Students, parents, and communities need more educators like her. She's inspired countless lives, and she's fostered a love for learning in her students. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to join me in recognizing Ms. Patty Mosley's outstanding accomplishments and her unwavering commitment to education. And I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
Question now consent to address the House for 1 minute, revising stand.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life of Deputy James J.D. Paul of the Richmond County Sheriff's Office in Augusta, Georgia. Deputy Paul was killed in the line of duty when he stopped to help what appeared to be a stranded motorist on the Bobby Jones Expressway. As Deputy Paul stopped his vehicle, Christopher Michael Hodges opened fire, striking Deputy Paul 9 times before turning his gun on himself. I had the opportunity to visit with members of Deputy Paul's family on Tuesday at the 31st Annual National Peace Officers Memorial Service, where family and friends of peace officers who died in the line of duty came together from all over the nation to remember their loved ones. As National Police Week comes to a close this week, we honor J.D. Paul, all peace officers who have given the ultimate sacrifice, and the families of fallen officers throughout the nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, I yield back.
Pursuant to House Resolution 661 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 4310. Will the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Dole, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 4310, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill to authorize appropriations for fiscal year 2013 for military activities of the Department of Defense, to prescribe military personnel strengths for fiscal year 2013 and for other purposes.
When the Committee of the Whole rose earlier today, Amendment Number 55, printed in House Report 112-485, offered by the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Pierce, had been postponed. You read all these? Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments on which further proceedings were postponed in the following order. Amendment Number 46 by Mr. Smith of Washington. Amendment Number 45 by Mr. Gomert of Texas. Amendment Number 17 by Mr. Kaufman of Colorado. Amendment Number 18 by Mr. Keating of Massachusetts. Amendment Number 19 by Mr. Brown of Georgia. Amendment Number 20 by Mr. Carson of Indiana. Amendment Number 26 by Mr. Cummings of Maryland. Amendment Number 29 by Mr. Slavin of the Northern Mariana Islands. Amendment Number 30 by Mr. Johnson of Georgia. Amendment Number 31 by Mr. Johnson of Georgia. Amendment Number 32 by Mr. Price of Georgia. Amendment Number 38 by Mr. Ridgell of Virginia. Amendment Number 42 by Ms. Lee, California. Amendment Number 47 by Mr. Duncan of South Carolina. Amendment Number 48 by Mr. Kaufman of Colorado. Amendment Number 49 by Ms. Lee of California. Amendment Number 54 by Mr. Franks of Arizona. Amendment Number 55 by Mr. Pierce of New Mexico. The Chair will reduce to 2 minutes the time for any electronic vote after the first vote in this series. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on Amendment Number 46, printed in the House Report 112-485 by the gentleman of Washington, Mr. Smith, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the nays prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment Number 46, printed in House Report Number 112-485, offered by Mr. Smith of Washington.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
Less than 8 hours after gaveling out at 1:30 this morning, the House is back for a third day of work on the 2013 Defense Authorization Bill. They began work on Wednesday with general debate. Yesterday, 13 hours or so of debate on some of the 142 amendments that are provided for under the rule. The underlying bill itself is the authorization of $643 billion for defense programs in 2013. That's $3.6 billion more than the President's request and $8 billion above the cap for defense that was set by last year's Budget Control Act. So a long set of votes here, 18 votes in this first round of votes this morning, and there will be plenty more to vote on today in the House. This first vote is an amendment debated about midnight last night, sponsored by Adam Smith, Democrat of Washington, and Justin Amash of Michigan. It's an amendment that would strike language from the bill for providing authority to transfer individuals captured within the United States, territories, or other locations to military authorities and prevent indefinite detention of such individuals at the Guantanamo detention facility. This first vote is 15 minutes. All of the other remaining votes will be 2-minute votes. One of the amendments debated yesterday, as a matter of fact, it got the most debate time, is Barbara Lee's amendment to end the war in Iraq, to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, rather. This was early in the debate yesterday, an amendment that would have obligated and expended only for the purposes of providing safe and orderly withdrawal from Afghanistan of the U.S. military and defense contractors. That amendment failed, and we're going to show you some of the debate that surrounded that amendment as this first vote continues.
Very much, Mr. Chair. First, let me just say this. It is just downright outrageous that the McGovern-Jones amendment was ruled out of order by the Rules Committee, denying this House the opportunity to debate and vote on their amendment. Secondly, we really do need a clear and 2-day at least debate, not 20 minutes, on this critical issue of Afghanistan. So for the life of me, you know, 20 minutes is not long enough, and I don't quite understand why, in fact, the McGovern-Jones amendment was not given the full amount of time, because the American people deserve to hear both sides of this issue from a variety of policy perspectives. My amendment today would put a responsible end to combat operation in Afghanistan by limiting the funding to the safe and orderly withdrawal of U.S. troops and military contractors. And I have to thank the co-sponsors of this bipartisan amendment, Representatives Jones and Conyers, Paul, Woolsey, Welch, Nadler, and Hastings, and all of our colleagues who have worked on this issue throughout the years to responsibly end the war in Afghanistan. I have offered this amendment in the past, and it has been a bipartisan amendment. It's clear that the American people have been far ahead of Congress in supporting an end to the war in Afghanistan. My amendment allows Congress the opportunity to stand squarely with the war-weary American people who want to bring our troops home. The call has been growing across this land to bring this war to an end. It's time now for the Congress to answer the call here today. The reality is that there is no military solution to the war in Afghanistan. Our brave troops have done everything that was asked of them and more. As the daughter of a military veteran, I also know firsthand the sacrifices and the commitment involved with defending our nation. But the truth is that they have been put in an impossible situation. There's no military solution, and it's past time to end the war and to bring the troops home. Over a decade now, over $500 billion spent in direct costs, and mind you, not a penny of it has been paid for. Instead, we should have been investing in jobs and our economy here at home and a smarter national security strategy. It is time to say enough is enough. With almost 2,000 United States troops killed in Afghanistan and many tens of thousands more maimed with injuries both hidden and visible, we must recognize that the boots-on-the-ground strategy in Afghanistan must end. It's critical to our economy and the future of this country that we stop pouring billions on a counterproductive military presence in Afghanistan. The American people have made it clear that the war is no longer worth fighting, not for another year, not for another 2 years, and surely not for another 12 years. Today, Congress should stand with 7 out of 10 Americans who oppose the war in Afghanistan. After 11 long years, it is time to bring our troops home. We can do that responsibly by voting yes on the Lee Amendment today. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. For purposes, gentleman from California seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman, I claim the time in opposition.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 10 minutes.
This time I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, the Vice Chairman of the Committee, Mr. Thornberry.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And essentially, this amendment says get out now. Leave Afghanistan regardless of the consequences. And I appreciate the honesty, the forthright nature of this amendment offered by the gentlelady from California. It is better to say up front what you are trying to do rather than to put various conditions on it or to tie our troops' hands in some way or to not put enough troops in the field in order to accomplish the mission we ask them to do. This is very clear. It says leave now. And it is tempting for all of us because we have been there for a while. I want our troops to leave as soon as possible, consistent with national security. And as a matter of fact, the underlying bill says that the United States military should not maintain an indefinite combat presence in Afghanistan and should transition to a counterterrorism and advise and assist mission at the earliest possible date, consistent with the conditions on the ground. And that's really the difference, consistent with the conditions on the ground. I believe you've got to take account what the situation is there. And you cannot just abandon Afghanistan and stick your head in the sand and pretend it's not going to have consequences. I think it's important to remember why we're there to begin with. We're not there because of them. We're there because of us. We're there to make sure that Afghanistan is no longer used as a safe haven, as a base from which will be used to launch attacks against us. That's the crux of the matter.
As soon as they are able to provide for their own security and prevent a return of the Taliban, a return of al-Qaeda, then we can go. And we will have accomplished our mission, and they'll have to sort through their domestic issues on their own. But if we leave too early and al-Qaeda and the Taliban return and use it as a base to launch attacks against us, then I'm afraid more Americans will suffer, and we could see repeats of past terrorist attacks. So, as tempting as it is, Mr. Chairman, we cannot ignore the consequences of our actions. Leaving too fast would be bad for our security.
Gentleman's time's expired. The gentlelady from California is
Thank you.
recognized.
I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Congresswoman Woolsey.
The gentlelady from California, Ms. Woolsey, is recognized for 2 minutes.
I rise today in support of my friend Barbara Lee's amendment. Let's look at the facts. 2/3 of Americans oppose our military occupation of Afghanistan. So, if the American people were to vote on this amendment today, it would pass overwhelmingly, with support from both Democrats and Republicans. After nearly 11 years, Mr. Chairman, enough is enough. Congress must catch up to the people they represent and embrace a responsible end to this war. Instead of dumping $10 billion a month into an unwinnable war, let's redirect our resources towards a smart security approach. Let's invest in people. Let's invest in development. Let's invest in humanitarian progress. Let's bring our troops home. Vote yes on the Lee amendment. Vote yes for smart security. Vote yes for the American people. I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized.
At this time, Mr. Chairman, I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, member of the committee, Mr. Conaway.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the chairman yielding the time. I stand in opposition to this amendment. My colleagues stated it very well earlier. This is simply just get out now. And my colleagues across the aisle in support of this amendment have continued to use the word responsible over and over, and there's nothing responsible about abandoning the efforts in Afghanistan today without the proper conditions on the ground. The President has a plan in place. Some of us may have had differing ideas with him, but he put a plan in place that says our combat troops will be out of there by 2014, contingent with the conditions on the ground. The Afghan people are responsible for their own security, and we're trying to help them get to that place with the Afghan National Army, the Afghan National Police, the Afghan Local Army. Those efforts are going on across the provinces of Afghanistan as we speak, and they're getting into the lead to take care of their security. But abandoning of Afghanistan today would put at risk 27 million Afghanis who are counting on us to get this right, counting on us to put them in a position to be able to defend themselves when we do leave in 2014. So getting out now, Mr. Speaker, is irresponsible rather than responsible. Now, I understand all of us are tired. All of us are weary. None of us like to go to those funerals. I go to the funerals of the young men and women who've been injured and killed in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I stand with those moms and dads and husbands and wives on the worst day of their lives. I understand it's grinding grief that is associated with it, but there's a pride also attached to that their loved one gave their life for something positive, for something good, that 27 million Afghanis could create a government that would allow them to rule themselves and not have the thugs of the Taliban do what they did in the mid-90s, come in and slaughter all the thoughtful people, all the teachers, all the folks who would lead in order to subjugate that people in ways that are just horrendous. They will do that again to anyone who has helped us over this last 10-year period. So we do have a responsibility there. The responsibility is to get out when the conditions on the ground say it's time to get out. The NATO is meeting this weekend in Chicago to determine ongoing conditions of what's going to be done with respect to their commitments, and this amendment would undermine all of those efforts that will be going on there. So I stand in opposition to the amendment. I encourage my colleagues to vote no on this amendment.
The gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to yield now 1 minute to the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Conyers.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 1 minute.
I thank the gentlelady from California and appreciate that ending America's longest war over 10 years is not an unreasonable notion, because there is a serious misunderstanding going on about this amendment on the other side. Withdrawing United States troops does not mean we're abandoning Afghanistan. Please,
There's a difference. There are other ways that we can continue to develop the diplomatic and political solutions that can't be won at gunpoint. Don't you get it? How many, if we're leaving in 2014, we're just saying, let's speed it up, let's begin a rational withdrawal, and we have a responsibility to keep a commitment to Afghanistan. It doesn't mean troops, it doesn't mean our military has to die. And I thank the gentlelady for yielding.
The gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I yield 2 minutes at this time. The gentleman from Florida, member of the committee, a gentleman who has led troops in battle, Mr. West.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to speak. And I will say this one thing. I've been in Afghanistan for 2.5 years, and having been a ground combat commander, I say one thing. If this amendment were to pass, where it says this amendment would restrict the authorization and use of funds for continuation of combat operations in Afghanistan, just today, in the Farah province, where I've been to, the Taliban attacked an Afghan government compound, killing 7 people. What you are telling to our men and women in combat, what you are saying to the enemy is that we are going to leave those men and women hanging, that we are not going to provide them the resources. Now, I see where this amendment says it does not prohibit or restrict the use of funds available for the U.S. to carry out diplomatic, humanitarian, development, or general reconstruction efforts. One of the problems that we have had in Afghanistan is that we got involved in nation building, we got involved in occupation-style warfare, and truly not being involved in counterterrorism style of warfare and going after the enemy. This is where our primary focus should be. And we have generals that are on the ground, that know what they're doing. They've been to Staff College. They've been to War College. Why is it that we don't want to listen to the people that we have placed trust and confidence in to lead our men and women in combat? They have been told in 2014 that we will be drawing down and leaving Afghanistan. Why in God's name would we want to repeat some of the horrible things that I saw my older brother go through in Vietnam, where we restricted funding, and the next thing you know, you had the killing fields of Pol Pot? I'm telling you, I've been in Afghanistan. I know this enemy. And I don't see anyone over there, my dear colleagues on the other side, that I would trust more than General Allen, who is on the ground, who knows what he has to do. The message that you send to our troops is that you're abandoning them. The message that you send to the Taliban, to Al-Qaeda, to the Haqqani Network, to LET, to every single radical Islamic group is that we have turned our backs on our military, and you can continue to kill them. And I just want to say one simple thing. 2 weeks ago, I went to the memorial service for PFC Michael J. Metcalf of Boynton Beach, Florida, who was laid to rest today in Arlington. I will not turn my backs on those men and women who are still my friends, some of them even my relatives. And I ask that my colleagues do not vote for this amendment. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentlelady from California.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, how much time do I have remaining?
The gentlelady from California has 4.5 minutes remaining. The gentleman from California has 4 minutes remaining.
Okay, let me just yield myself 30 seconds and just respond to the gentleman from Florida and just say this amendment, I think he's probably not reading the amendment that I have offered. What this amendment does is restrict our funding for the purpose of the safe and the orderly withdrawal from Afghanistan of all members of the armed forces and the Department of Defense. It is not a cut-and-run amendment. This is a force protection amendment. It would bring our young men and women out of harm's way, and it would provide the resources to move forward to help stabilize the region. I'd like now to yield a minute to the gentlelady from Hawaii, Congresswoman Hanabusa.
Hawaii is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise to speak in support of the Lee Amendment. When I was in the Hawaii State Legislature, we were the only state that did a Hawaii Medal of Honor, and the fortunate part about it is we gave those medals to the spouses and the families and the friends of those who had fallen in Iraq and Afghanistan, as long as they had some connection to Hawaii, either serving at one of our bases or being from there. And that when I went through that proceeding, I said, you know, as soon as we can, and I believe the time has come for us, we must safely remove our troops and the civilian personnel because we owe it to them. It is not a matter of whether or not we are abdicating or we are turning our backs on them. They have done what they were sent there to do. 11 years of fighting. Osama bin Laden is dead. The people of the United States know that. And they are asking us to remove the men and women. Don't continue them in harm's way, because we have done what we told them that they were sent there to do. And that is why I stand in support of the Lee Amendment. I yield back.
The gentlelady's time's expired. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I yield 1 minute to my friend and colleague, the gentleman from Illinois, member of the committee, Air Force pilot, Mr. Kissinger.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 1 minute.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, leadership isn't easy. These are lessons that we learn all through history. We learned it from Abraham Lincoln when he had to face a union that was dissolving. I learned it in officer training as a pilot in the military, and I learned it in my experience overseas. Think of the sacrifice that our troops have made in Afghanistan. Now, we understand it's been too long, but think of the sacrifice they've made. And now we're getting ready, very quickly with the passage of an amendment, if this passes, to say we're just getting out. We're not going to leave the commanders on the ground with the authority to say how we do it or what we do. What are we going to say to our troops if this passes? And what are we going to say to Bibi? Bibi is a young woman in Afghanistan who at the age of 12 was sold into slavery because somebody committed a crime in her family and the Taliban required her to be sold into slavery. She escaped and had her nose and ears cut off. Her uncle and her family turned their back on her as she tried to crawl to safety, and she went to an American forward operating base where she was granted safety and freedom. What are we going to say to Bibi when we pick up and say, you know what, we've had enough, we're just going to pick up and leave today? This is a big deal, and I would urge my colleagues to oppose this ill-thought-out amendment, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, how much time do I have remaining?
The gentlelady from California has 2 minutes remaining. The gentleman from California has 3 minutes remaining.
2 minutes. I'd like to yield now 1 minute to the gentlelady from Texas, Congresswoman Jackson Lee.
The gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
I'd like to thank the gentlelady for a very thoughtful amendment, and I again acknowledge the amendment that both Mr. Smith and Mr. McGovern had. And clearly what this is an opportunity for the American people to speak through their representatives here on the floor of the House. None of us want to promote the killing of women, the cutting off of ears, the mutilization of anyone. I have founded and chaired the Afghan caucus. I've gone to Afghanistan many times. I've delivered books to their schools. What we are suggesting is that the precious blood of our soldiers, first going there after the horrific incident of 9/11, they, after 10 years, have given the fullest measure. And what we're suggesting is that we bring them home safely and orderly, and that we begin to use the diplomatic resources. We enhance NATO. We make sure that we work with our allies, and we have the Afghan National Security Forces stand up. That's what we're saying. We've given enough ribbons and hero awards because we know that our soldiers would not step away. They want to be there with their comrades. But it is important for us as members of Congress who make decisions to send young men and women into war to make a decision that their job is well done and that Afghanistan begin to, in essence, develop their democratic processes and begin to have their national security forces and their police officers stand up. Enough killing of our soldiers by internal acts by Afghan police and soldiers. Let us bring them home now in an orderly way. God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America.
Gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, at this time I yield 1 minute to my friend and colleague, the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Pierce.
The gentleman from New Mexico is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I flew combat missions in Vietnam in 1971, 72, and 73. I was there when members of this House voted to cut the funds to troops in combat. I'm hearing the words safe and orderly withdrawal. Has anyone on the other side looked at the safe and orderly withdrawal that occurred in Vietnam? As we fell head over heels, we left 574 combat-ready aircraft there. That was the safe and orderly withdrawal we had when this body began to manage Vietnam. We lost the Vietnam War because we took the control of the war away from the generals and placed it into this body, people who had never been in combat, who had never been in harm's way. And I'm telling you, as someone who was there during a time when Congress choked off the funds to people that were in harm's way, I had a burning anger that burns today. And when I see this amendment and visualize the young men and women over there who you're cutting funds off and saying, we're going to leave you with an orderly and quiet withdrawal, it's not humanly possible. The other side doesn't play by your orderly rules. Understand that this is war, and our troops' lives are at risk, and you're putting them more so. Yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
I'd like to reserve the balance of my time and yield to
Gentlelady
the
from
other
California
side.
reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Could I ask the time remaining?
The gentleman from California has 2 minutes remaining. The gentlelady from California has 1 minute remaining.
And I have the right to close?
The gentleman from California has the right to close.
I'll reserve.
The gentleman from California reserves.
Now,
Gentlelady from California.
okay, let me just first say that I appreciate this 20-minute debate, but we should have a couple of days to be able to have a full debate on why we need to, one, protect our troops and provide for their safe and orderly withdrawal. The American people are war-weary. We need to reunite our brave men and women in uniform with their families at home. We should transfer the billions of dollars that we're spending on war to creating jobs here at home. We should ensure that our troops are provided with the resources that they deserve and they need during this withdrawal. We're asking for a safe and orderly withdrawal. We're saying our young men and women have fought. They've done everything we've asked them to do. We think that now, as the American people are saying, that combat mission, the fighting should end, and we should begin by protecting our troops and contractors, and we should begin to end the longest war in American history. It's time to end the war in Afghanistan.
The gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I yield myself the balance of the time.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Chairman, when I was in Afghanistan a few years ago, I visited Camp Leatherneck. General Nicholson, who was just setting up base, and they were just there in the desert, and then were out setting up forward operating bases, trying to take back territory that the Taliban commanded. The general told me that his troops were being asked every day by the local people, when are you leaving? How long are you going to be here? Can we trust you to be here to protect us? Last year, when I returned, I went to the same area. We were able to go to Marja this time, which we couldn't go to before because that was a Taliban stronghold. Last year, we were able to walk down the street in Marja. I saw Marines and Afghan soldiers embracing that they were happy to see each other. Maybe they'd been apart for a while. We were able to, the Marines had put up light standards down the street, and the merchants were able to keep their stores open a little bit longer. We opened a school while we were there, not a school like we enjoy, but it was a school built out of adobe and tents. They had 500 kids. About a third of them were girls. They were able to go to school that they hadn't been able to go to before. They were excited about that opportunity. I visited with the local governor there. We had lunch. I asked him what motivated him, because he knew as the Taliban came back for the spring offensive, his life was on the line. He said, God willing, will prevail. And Mr. Chairman, I think when we talk about pulling these people out before they have a chance to complete their mission, I was at a street fair in Simi Valley last week, and I talked to a lady working in a booth for the troops. She said, my grandson just came home from Afghanistan, and I told him we ought to just get out of there. And he said, Granny, that's wrong. We're accomplishing great things. We're helping those people. Let us finish our mission. That's what the generals say they should do. That's what the troops say they should do. Defeat this amendment that pulls the troops out immediately.
And the Barbara Lee amendment failed yesterday by a vote of 113 to 303. This is the first in a series of amendment votes to the 2013 Defense Authorization Bill. This is an amendment by Adam Smith of Washington and Justin Amash of Michigan regarding the transfer of individuals captured within the U.S. or territories to the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay. 17 amendment votes will follow this, and lots more amendment debate ahead on the House floor.
On this vote, the yeas are 182, the nays are 238. The amendment is not adopted. The unfinished business is the request for recorded vote on amendment number 45, printed in House Report 112-485 by the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the ayes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 45, printed in House Report number 112-485, offered by Mr. Gohmert of Texas.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having arisen, the recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 2-minute vote.
Congressional Quarterly reports that defense spending, including funding for the war in Afghanistan, is expected to total almost 60% of all federal discretionary spending. The authorization bill authorizes nearly $643 billion for defense programs in the next fiscal year. That's $3.6 billion more than the request. Here's an amendment by Louis Gohmert of Texas that would clarify the constitutional rights and writ of habeas corpus for persons detained in the United States under the National Defense Authorization Act. On this vote, the yeas are 243, the nays are 173. The amendment is adopted. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on amendment number 17, printed in House Report 112-485 by the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Kaufman, on which further proceedings were postponed, and the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 17, printed in House Report number 112-485, offered by Mr. Kaufman of Colorado.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 2-minute vote.
A third day of debate on the Defense Programs and Policy Bill for fiscal year 2013. A series of 18 amendment votes here. Mike Kaufman's amendment would repeal the moratorium dealing with certain Defense Department functions, which prohibits the outsourcing of U.S. military jobs to private contractors. 2-minute vote.
The nays are 211. The amendment is not adopted. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on amendment number 18, printed in House Report 112-485 by the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Keating, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 18, printed in House Report number 112-485, offered by Mr. Keating of Massachusetts.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in favor of a request for a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 2-minute vote.
An amendment by Bill Keating, Democrat of Massachusetts, which deals with the freezing the transfer, reduction, or elimination of some Air National Guard units. Like all the other amendment votes, it's a 2-minute vote. The bill itself, the authorization bill, provides for $643 billion, authorizes that. This is the authorization bill. Authorizes that for fiscal year 2013. It's $3.6 billion more than the administration requested, $8 billion above the cap set for defense spending in last year's Budget Control Act. Yesterday, meanwhile, the House Appropriations Committee was working on the defense spending bill for fiscal year 2013. As a matter of fact, they approved that spending measure. And John Donnelly of CQ writes that's a bill that would allocate billions of dollars more than the president requested, mainly on a variety of new weapons. The money for new ships, submarines, aircraft, and other assets is the latest sign of how House Republicans intend to give the Pentagon not only more money than the White House wants, but also more than most of them voted for in last summer's debt ceiling law.
On this vote, the yeas are 192, the nays are 229. The amendment is not adopted. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on amendment number 19, printed in House Report 112-485 by the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Brown, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 19, printed in House Report number 112-485, offered by Mr. Brown of Georgia.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having arisen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 2-minute vote.
Paul Brown of Georgia argued yesterday the case of a constituent in his district who he said was a world-class athlete but was just months over the age limit of joining the military. His amendment would eliminate the maximum age limitation for individuals seeking to enlist in the U.S. military. Again, the underlying bill is the Defense Authorization Bill for fiscal year 2013. Reporting on some of the voting so far, Jeremy Herb and Peter Kasparowicz of the Hill, following the action in the House, write that the House has backed the President's powers to indefinitely detain terrorist suspects captured on U.S. soil in 2 votes this morning. They defeated an amendment that would have barred military detention for terrorist suspects captured in the U.S. in a 182 to 231 vote, stifling an attempt from a coalition of liberal Democrats and libertarian-leaning Republicans. Instead, the House passed by 243 to 173 an amendment by National Defense Authorization Act to the act sponsored by Louis Gohmert of Texas, which affirmed that U.S. citizens would not be denied habeas corpus rights.
The yeas are 164, the nays are 256. The amendment is not adopted. The unfinished business is a request for a recorded vote on amendment number 20, printed in House Report 112-485 by the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Carson, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 20, printed in House Report number 112-485, offered by Mr. Carson of Indiana.